So we're currently driving through a suburban subdivision in the eastern suburbs of Brisbane in Redland City. And what we're looking at is the rapid evolution of a suburban landscape. The suburban landscape we're looking at, as I explained a bit earlier, is really tied to the evolution of the Australian dream. You can see each yard has a patch of green grass. There's a backyard. There's a garage that houses one, potentially even two cars. So this area was undeveloped when we started running the field trip just a decade ago. Over the past few years, it's become urbanized very rapidly and has become a full-scale suburban subdivision that seeks to accommodate a large proportion of Southeast Queensland's population. As you drive down the suburban streetscape, you'll notice a few hallmark features of Australian suburbia. So I've mentioned the yards and the garages for housing cars, but certainly think about the impacts of these in terms of the environment. So the yards create a biodiversity desert and really preclude the thriving of native vegetation and species. And the cars insinuate that the average resident of this community is highly reliant on imported sources of fuel, will be driving places, and that particular residents are not suited to live here. So in particular, the elderly have very difficult time living in neighborhoods like this because oftentimes they're unable or unwilling to drive at their age. So the primary driver of suburban landscapes like this is this discourse associated with the Australian dream tied to the suburban detached dwelling. But from the government's perspective, these landscapes are really produced by the need to accommodate more people. Australia is a rapidly growing country. Southeast Queensland is a rapidly growing part of Australia, and the eastern suburbs of Brisbane are some of the most rapidly growing in Southeast Queensland. So this region has grown from a population of approximately 80,000 in 1991 to almost 200,000 today. In fact, it's really growing at a rapid rate, and particularly through the 90s and early 2000s, as it became effectively an outer suburb of suburban Brisbane. Since then has slowed down, and the slowing is partly due to the fact that there is a lack of broad hectare land. So there's a limited number of parcels that can be adequately developed. But until we run out of parcels, we're going to continue to develop in this style. And I guess the question to ask yourselves as you navigate this field trip, whether in person or virtually, is this sustainable? Is this an outcome we want for Southeast Queensland? And is this something we're capable of continuing into the future as a suburban landscape of sprawl? So the Redland City region is growing at a pace of approximately 2,000 people per year. Between 2018 and 2019, the region grew by 1,800 people, and that was broken down into its three respective components. There was a natural increase of approximately 500 people due to births. There was a net internal migration of approximately 700 people, and net international migration of approximately 500 people. The net internal migration was by far the largest component of that growth. So in effect, what that's saying is that this is a very desirable place for people from other parts of Australia, and particularly other parts of Southeast Queensland, to move. The area offers trees, greenery, and it offers housing affordability that you won't find elsewhere in Southeast Queensland. But again, that urge to suburbanize reproduces itself in these suburban landscapes over and over again. And as there's more demand, there's more supply, and developers put more pressure on councils to release more land for suburban sprawl.